What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Buzz. Dan Hooker recently went off on Arman Tsarukyan during an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show, taking direct aim at the top-ranked contender ahead of their highly anticipated fight. Hooker didn't hold back, calling out Tsarukyan's privileged background and training habits. His daddy can pay for the best strength and conditioning coach, Hooker said. I saw him say he spent $100 on training camp and then pulled out. Bro, what? You should win for the amount of money he puts into these things? I drive 5 minutes down the road to City Kickboxing and punch my mates. That's the difference. It just shows how far the sport has come. Now rich little daddy's boys can reach the pinnacle of MMA. Hooker also issued a warning to Tsarukyan, making it clear that he won't tolerate disrespect. He's just a lippy little rich kid who's had everything handed to him. He doesn't need the money from these UFC fights. If he walks up on me the way he did to Bobby Green, the fight's canceled. Despite the heated words, Hooker still gave Tsarukyan credit for his abilities. I'll admit, this is one of the most difficult fights I could have taken. I know absolutely no one wants to fight the guy or take that kind of risk, he said. But that's just not who I am. I don't discredit fighters who try to find the path of least resistance. That's their choice, but I've always wanted to go the hardest way. I take pride in that. Both fighters now find themselves in a high-stakes clash that could determine who moves closer to a lightweight title shot. Hooker's raw, honest words and his willingness to face one of the toughest contenders in the division prove once again why he's one of the most respected veterans in the sport. We're always working to improve our content and truly value your support. If you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, it would mean a lot to us. That way you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. Dana White has officially responded to the growing rumors surrounding Ronda Rousey's possible return to combat sports. Despite Rousey revealing earlier this year that she's been dealing with neurological issues, speculation has continued to build that the former UFC bantamweight champion might be preparing for a comeback. Speaking at the post-fight press conference after UFC 320, White addressed the situation directly. Ronda and I are still very close. We talk probably once every 3 months, White said. She was in Vegas recently and stopped by the UFC offices, but honestly, I don't know what her plans are. I think she's just training again. She's had 3 babies and is in a completely different stage of her life right now. But I'll tell you this, she's in incredible shape. She just had another baby, and she's ripped like she used to be. So who knows? White's comments reignited fan speculation about a potential Rousey return, but sports journalist Ariel Helwani added his own perspective during the Want to Know segment of his show. She's not just working out for the sake of it, Helwani said. Now, is she tied to the UFC? Not really. Conceivably, an organization like the PFL could come in and offer her something massive. $100 million maybe. She's not necessarily locked into a UFC deal, though she does have a long and positive history with. Helwani went on to say that if Rousey were to come back, there's only one fight that would truly make sense. If there's any chance she returns, I think there's only one opponent who could genuinely pique her interest, Gina Carano, he said. Although Rousey has stated that she doesn't want to fight on the upcoming White House card, Dana White made it clear that the door remains open. If Ronda wants to come back, we'll talk. She's a legend of the sport and there's always a place for her, he concluded. With Rousey reportedly back in top physical form and maintaining close contact with the UFC, fans can't help but wonder if one of the most iconic figures in women's MMA is preparing for one final chapter in her storied career. Move on to another news. Alex Pereira has officially received a strong warning about pursuing a potential super fight with Jon Jones this year. Although Pereira hasn't directly called out Jones in the explosive way many expected, veteran UFC fighter Matt Brown believes the Brazilian knockout artist is heading into dangerous territory if he truly wants that fight. Speaking on the fighter versus the writer, Brown shared his candid thoughts on why a matchup between Pereira and Jones could spell disaster for the reigning light heavyweight champion. What Alex and John are going to do is create a massive build-up, the kind that gets everyone in the fight world buzzing, Brown said. There will be people betting on Alex just like they did with Conor McGregor when he fought Floyd Mayweather. People will convince themselves he's got a shot, and honestly, I think Alex has a better chance against John than Conor did against Floyd, but the comparison stands. The matchup itself is a nightmare for Pereira. Brown broke down exactly why the fight heavily favors Jones. Jon Jones is huge at heavyweight. He's probably even bigger than Pereira. And he's not just strong, he's one of the best wrestlers the sport has ever seen, Brown explained. There's no way in hell that Alex wrestling comes close to John's level right now. Even if John hasn't fought for a year and just shows up, that grappling advantage alone would be overwhelming. While Pereira's ambitions to challenge the heavyweight legend have caught headlines, the timing might not be ideal. The Brazilian powerhouse is currently sidelined, recovering from a broken foot he sustained earlier earlier this year. Despite that, Pereira's stock continues to rise. He recently climbed to No. 5 on the MMA fighting pound-for-pound rankings and No. 4 on the UFC's official list, an impressive feat for someone who transitioned to MMA just a few years ago. With Pereira healing and Jon Jones expected to defend his heavyweight belt soon, fans may not see the super fight materialize anytime soon. In the meantime, the light heavyweight division remains active, with top contenders like Jiri and Carlos Olberg rumored to be lining up for a title eliminator bout. Whether Pereira waits for the dust to settle or keeps chasing the Jones showdown, one thing is clear. Matt Brown believes stepping into the cage with Jon Jones would be the toughest and riskiest move of Pereira's already remarkable career. Move on to another news. Arman Tsarukyan has made it clear that he doesn't believe Paddy Pimblett stands a chance against UFC featherweight champion Ilia Topuria. While the UFC has yet to officially announce Topuria's first title defense, speculation continues to swirl around who will get the opportunity. With Tsarukyan recently booked to face Dan Hooker, most signs now point to either Justin Gaethje or Paddy Pimblett being in line for the next big shot. During an appearance on the Ariel Helwani show this week, Tsarukyan didn't mince words when asked whether he thought Pimblett could defeat Topuria. No way, Tsarukyan said confidently. Only I can beat Ilia in our division right now. Everybody knows that, even the UFC knows it. That's why they're pushing him as much as possible. But I'm the real challenge for him. Tsarukyan, who has quickly established himself as one of the most dangerous and well-rounded lightweights in the sport, is currently focused on his upcoming bout against Dan Hooker. But that didn't stop him from firing a few shots in his opponent's direction. Tell him to train how to defend wrestling, Tsarukyan said with a smirk. Because I'm going to wrestle for 25 minutes straight. That's my plan. I'll make him feel my pressure and control every second of that fight. For Tsarukyan, the path to a title shot seems crystal clear. Hopefully I go in there, beat Hooker, perform very well, finish him, and show my level. After that, I want my title fight in January or February, he said. Confident, disciplined, and focused, Tsarukyan believes his time has come to finally step into the spotlight and prove he's the rightful contender for UFC gold. If Tsarukyan wins his upcoming fight, the lightweight division could see a major shakeup early next year. With his relentless wrestling, sharp striking, and ever-growing confidence, he's positioning himself as a legitimate threat to anyone standing in his way, including Ilia Topuria. And while fans continue to debate whether Pimblett or JFG deserves the next shot, Tsarukyan has made his position clear. He's the only man capable of ending Topuria's reign. Move on to another news. Carlos Olberg has officially responded to Jiri Prochaska's recent comments criticizing him for allegedly turning down a fight. Ahead of Prochaska's clash with Khalil Rountree Jr. this weekend, the former light heavyweight champion claimed that Olberg avoided facing him, comments that didn't sit well with the rising contender. Now, Olberg has set the record straight, explaining that the situation wasn't as Prochaska made it out to be. Appearing on the Ariel Helwani show this week, Olberg clarified that his decision had nothing to do with fear or avoidance, but rather an unfortunate injury. It wasn't like Jiri said, "I didn't deny the fight or try to avoid him," Olberg said. "I had an injury at the time, and I asked the UFC if we could push the fight back to November. That would have given me enough time to rehab and return properly. It was a dangerous fight against a high-level opponent, so we wanted to be smart about it." Olberg emphasized that he was fully prepared to face Prochaska, just not while injured. "I wasn't backing down. I respect Jiri and what he's accomplished, but I wanted to come in healthy. Fighting someone like him at anything less than 100% just doesn't make sense," he explained. "I didn't expect the UFC to tell him that I pushed the date. It was all good from my side, just business and timing." However, MNN journalist Marcel Dorf pointed out a curious detail that has fans questioning Olberg's explanation. "You asked to push back the Jiri fight to November, but now you're fighting Dominic Reyes in September," Dorf wrote. "That doesn't quite add up. If you couldn't fight Jiri in Perth, why could you fight Reyes there instead?" Despite the scrutiny, Olberg remains focused on his goals. With his eyes set on a #1 contender bout, he made it clear that he's ready for whoever the UFC puts in front of him, including Prochaska. "I'm here to fight the best. If Jiri wants it, I'm ready. Let's make it happen," Olberg said confidently. As the back and forth continues, it appears the next move belongs to Prochaska. If both men win their upcoming fights, a showdown between the former champion and the fast-rising Olberg could determine the next title challenger in the light heavyweight division, a matchup that would be as explosive as it is inevitable. Move on to another news. The MMA community has grown increasingly concerned for Chimaev's safety following his latest social media post. The undefeated UFC star recently shared a video on Instagram showing himself training in front of a large portrait of Chechen President Ramzan Kadyrov. What may seem like a simple training clip to some has sparked a wave of speculation and worry across the MMA world, as many believe Chimaev could be under pressure or control from Kadyrov's regime. Several MMA analysts and fans expressed alarm online, with many theorizing that Chimaev may be forced to publicly show loyalty to Kadyrov, fearing potential repercussions for his family if he refuses. MMA Guru, a well-known voice in the MMA community, addressed the situation bluntly on social media, writing, "There are a lot of things you can criticize Khamzat for, but his enforced loyalty toward Kadyrov isn't one of them." Guru continued, referencing Chimaev's earlier appearances in videos with Kadyrov's son Daiwovs. He's been filmed letting Kadyrov's son spar with him for social media. Around Kadyrov, Khamzat's not the wolf. He's a man who's forced to submit to power. His world title and achievements are overshadowed by the image of a man who had no part in his success. Kadyrov takes pleasure in controlling one of the most dangerous fighters on earth. Fans across social media echoed similar concerns. One user wrote, "Jokes aside, I hope Khamzat is safe. This doesn't look normal." Another added, "He's doing what he has to so his family doesn't get hurt. If he stops showing loyalty, they could be in danger." Others speculated that Khamzat might be living like a hostage, bound by loyalty he cannot refuse. "He's glazing Kadyrov because it's safer that way," one post read. "If he even hints at retirement or independence, he could risk everything." While some believe the situation is being blown out of proportion, the general sentiment remains one of concern and sympathy. Chimaev's talent and dominance inside the Octagon have made him one of MMA's biggest stars, but outside the cage, fans fear he may be living under conditions far beyond his control. Whether these fears are grounded in fact or exaggerated by rumor. Move on to another news. Daniel Cormier has confirmed that Magomed Ankalaev went into his UFC 320 fight against Alex Pereira with broken ribs. The revelation adds a new layer of context to Ankalaev's performance in a bout where Pereira unleashed a devastating barrage of 12 to 6 elbows during the finishing sequence that ended the fight. While many speculated about Ankalaev's condition leading up to the event, Cormier's statement has now validated those rumors. In a recent video posted on his YouTube channel, the former UFC champion explained, "Let's talk about the injury right away. Magomed Ankalaev did have a rib injury. This is not a lie or an excuse. Before the fight, I saw footage of him receiving injections into his ribs to help manage the pain and get through training. For nearly 6 weeks, he was limited to light pad work and cardio sessions. He can go full force in camp." Cormier added that although the injury clearly affected Ankalaev, it's uncertain whether the outcome would have changed even if he had been healthy. "I don't know if the result changes if he was 100% because of how Pereira fought that night," Cormier continued. "People close to Ankalaev advised him not to fight, but he wanted to go through with it. He wanted to beat Pereira again and prove his dominance." Further reports on social media have backed Cormier's claim. MMA insider Rio Kevin K stated that Ankalaev was unable to complete a single full training session in the final 6 weeks before UFC 320 due to the rib injury. This detail sheds light on why the Russian fighter appeared less explosive and struggled with movement during the match. Despite Ankalaev's condition, the MMA community seems united in recognizing that Alex Pereira is in his prime. Former lightweight champion Charles Oliveira also weighed in saying, "Anderson Silva had his time, Jose Aldo had his time, and now Pereira is at the top. Everyone deserves their moment and their respect." When asked about a potential super fight between Alex Pereira and Jon Jones, Oliveira expressed mixed feelings. "I'll be cheering for Brazil and for Pereira," he said, "but I'll also be nervous watching it because Jones is great. Still, if Pereira lands one of those hands, anyone in front of him is going down." Move on to another news. Alexander Volkanovski has shared his thoughts on the upcoming UFC 321 main event between Tom Aspinall and Tsarukyan, calling it a 50-50 matchup. The highly anticipated heavyweight title fight is set to take place in Abu Dhabi on October 25, where undisputed champion Tom Aspinall will make the first defense of his title against France's Tsarukyan. For Aspinall, it marks a return to the Octagon after a 14-month layoff, while Gane will be entering his third attempt at capturing UFC gold, having previously fallen short against Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones. Volkanovski, who is also scheduled to compete on the same card, will face Jilton Almeida in another heavyweight bout. The Russian contender, known for his striking and technical composure, reflected on his past experiences against both Aspinall and Gane. Speaking to MMA Junkie, Volkov offered an unbiased assessment of the title clash. "Both of them are really good," Volkov explained. "Tsarukyan is excellent with his movement, his footwork, and overall agility. He's also improved a lot in his grappling. He's been working hard on his ground game, so I believe the fight is truly 50-50. Alexander, who has shared the Octagon with both fighters, added that although Aspinall seemed the more complete opponent when he faced him, the outcome of this fight could swing either way depending on preparation and game plan. It depends on how the fight starts and how both of them come in mentally and physically prepared, he said. I've seen how motivated Gane is for this fight. He wants that belt badly. On paper, when I fought both of them, Tom Aspinall looked better, but once the cage door closes, anything can happen. Alexander has first-hand experience against both men. He fought Aspinall in 2022, where the Englishman secured a dominant win and later faced Tsarukyan in December 24, falling short in another competitive bout. Those experiences give Alexander a unique perspective on how evenly matched the two title contenders truly are. As the fight approaches, anticipation continues to build among fans and analysts. Aspinall's explosive athleticism and well-rounded skill set will be tested against Gane's technical precision and newfound grappling confidence. With both fighters evolving and carrying something to prove, Aspinall defending his crown and Gane chasing redemption. Alexander's assessment of the fight as 50-50 might be the most accurate prediction of all.